Luca Belmont, 28 years old, the sole heir of Belmont Holdings, a multi-billion-dollar financial empire. To the outside world, Luca lived every man's dream: luxury cars, estates, yachts, and high society galas from Monaco to New York. But for him, it all felt like a golden prison. Beautiful, but suffocating. After his mother passed away, Luca grew even more distant from his father, Arthur Belmont, a cold, calculating man who saw his son as nothing more than a corporate pawn. Every decision in Luca's life had been made for him: the schools he attended, the role he'd take in the company, even his future bride, the daughter of a powerful board member. But Luca was done being controlled. One night he left away from the mansion, cut all communication, threw away his phone, emptied his accounts, and left everything behind. His destination, a small seaside town his mother once told him about, a place with a bustling fish market and golden morning sunlight. There, Luca introduced himself as Lucas and applied to be a helper at the local fish market. He started his first day wearing spotless white sneakers, wide-eyed and clueless, with hands that had never known the smell of fish. He had no idea what exactly he was searching for, but deep inside, he hoped to find something that money had never been able to buy: freedom. Lucas rented a modest room above an old convenience store, facing the bustling fish port. The landlady, a hunched old woman, eyed him suspiciously as he handed over crisp bills for a full month's rent. "What do you do for a living?" she asked. "I'm looking for work," Lucas replied hesitantly. The next morning, he arrived at the fish market at 4 a.m. No one cared about his face or past. They only wanted to know if he could carry crates and not complain. He was assigned to stall number 9-1 of the busiest, loudest section selling saltwater fish. There, Lucas began his first real job that had nothing to do with wealth or boardrooms: washing the stall, dumping ice, and stacking fish on trays. His once weakel sneakers turned gray within 15 minutes. While attempting to carry a heavy tray of fish, he slipped and spilled everything across the wet concrete. "Hey, what's that? Do you want someone to slip?" a sharp voice snapped in the local dialect. Lucas looked up. Standing before him was a girl, maybe 24. She wasn't tall, but her presence was sharp and quick. Her hair was tied back, her skin sun-kissed, and her face vibrant with life. Her hands were still wet with fish blood, the scent of the sea clinging to her like perfume. "I'm sorry, I'm new here," Lucas stammered. "Clearly. People like you belong in fancy cafes, not fish markets," she said, glaring before turning away. That was Mira, the woman in charge of Stall 9, orphaned young. She had been raised by her aunt Tita Rosa, a woman in her 50s who treated her like her own. Mira rose at 4 a.m. every day, prepared fish to sell, bartered with customers, and cared for her sick aunt suffering from a goiter. Yet, somehow, she always found time to smile. Lucas was assigned to Mira's team, carrying crates, washing stalls, packing ice. Each day, he earned a new scolding from Mira for being clumsy. But with every passing day, his eyes followed her a little more closely. She wasn't like anyone he had ever known. No makeup, no heels, no perfume. But every step she took pulsed with real life, raw, vibrant, and free. And perhaps that's what made Lucas unable to look away from her. In the days that followed, Lucas gradually adapted to the rhythm of market life. The fishy smell, the noise, the harsh morning sun, none of it overwhelmed him anymore. Instead, each morning he looked forward to Mira's scoldings, to the sight of her ponytail swaying as she carried fish, and to sharing a simple lunchbox between towers of styrofoam crates. Lucas learned to clean fish. He often cut himself on small bones and sharp blades, but never once complained. Mira began to notice. Though clumsy, Lucas didn't quit. His hands grew calloused, his clothes no longer pristine like that first day, and he learned quickly. Within a week, he could fillet fish without ruining the flesh. One noon, as the sun blazed overhead, Mira saw Lucas sitting alone behind their stall. Sweat dripped from his chin onto his shirt. He was trying to wrap a medical bandage around his cut finger. For some reason, something tugged at her heart. "Let me do it," Mira said, sitting beside him. Lucas looked surprised. She gently took his hand, wiped the blood, and carefully wrapped the gauze. A quiet warmth spread through him. "Your hands, they're soft, like someone who's never done a day of hard work," she blurted out. Lucas laughed. "That's true. I haven't, but I want to learn." "Why?" Mira asked, tilting her head to study him. He didn't answer right away. A small silence settled between them. "Because I want to live a real life, like you." Mira turned to him. Their eyes met for a brief moment. Her heart raced, though she didn't understand why. That evening, after the market had closed, Mira didn't head home right away. She and Lucas walked along the breakwater, sipping fresh coconut juice from a street vendor. Every word Lucas said made her smile. Not because he was particularly funny, but because he was sincere and utterly foreign to her world. And in Mira's heart, something soft and salty like the sea breeze began to grow, something she had never felt for anyone before. But that evening, the joy vanished. Tita Rosa, the aunt who raised Mira, suddenly collapsed, gasping for air. At the clinic, the doctor explained she had a thyroid goiter compressing her airway. Emergency surgery was required to save her life. Mira sat stunned, staring at the hospital bill. 35,000 pesos, a fortune for them. "What do I do?" she whispered, her eyes filled with tears. Lucas watched from a distance, silent. That night, he left the market early. While the town slept, he applied for a night shift as a dishwasher at a portside diner. Days spent hauling fish, nights spent scrubbing plates. Exhausted, aching, but he kept going. For Mira. For her smile. For that look in her eyes when she held the hospital bill. For the first time in his life, Lucas wasn't helping someone out of obligation, but out of genuine care. One night, Mira went out to buy medicine for Tita Rosa. On her way back, she passed a small diner near the port and spotted a familiar figure behind the dishwashing station. Lucas. His sleeves were rolled up, hair soaked in sweat. She froze. Her heart raced. She couldn't believe it. Lucas, the man who always came home late and dodged her questions, was secretly working night shifts. The next morning, when Lucas arrived at the market, Mira pulled him aside. "What were you doing at that diner?" she asked, voice shaking. Lucas fell silent for a moment. Then he said quietly, "So, you saw. How long have you been hiding this from me? Did you think I didn't deserve to know?" she snapped, eyes glistening. Lucas lowered his gaze. "I'm sorry, I didn't want you to see me struggling. I know you're proud. I didn't want you to feel like you were being rescued. But I don't need a hero. I need honesty," Mira whispered, tears rolling down. Lucas gently wiped them. "I just wanted to help. Because I love you, Mira. I have for a long time." Mira froze. Her heart trembled. She never imagined those words would come at a moment like this. One evening, Mira was bringing a bowl of porridge to Tita Rosa when she heard the TV from the room next door broadcasting the evening news. Real estate tycoon Arthur Belmont has released a public statement searching for his only son, Lucas Ainsworth, the sole heir of the Ainsworth Group, who has been missing for nearly 2 months now. Lucas's face flashed across the screen. It was unmistakable. Mira froze. The tray fell from her hands, porridge splattered on the floor. Her heart tightened in disbelief. All this time had been a lie? That night, when Lucas returned to his small room, Mira was waiting at the door. Her face was cold, unreadable. "How long were you planning to hide from me, Lucas Ainsworth?" Lucas froze. "Mira, let me explain." "Explain what? That you were pretending to be a porter while actually being the heir to a billion-dollar empire?" Mira laughed bitterly. "What am I to you? A side adventure while you escaped your golden cage?" Lucas stood silent. He stepped closer, his voice shaking slightly. "It's not like that. I left because everything in my life felt fake. Only here, among ordinary people, did I feel truly alive. And what about me? Mira's voice cracked. So I was just your little escape from the boredom of wealth? A living diary entry for your soul-searching trip? Lucas shook his head. You were never part of a plan. From the first day I met you, I knew I didn't want to return to the man I used to be. Tears welled up in Mira's eyes. She turned away, wiping her cheek with the back of her hand. You should go back to your world, Lucas, the one with your powerful father, your millions, your fame. Lucas stepped forward, trying to reach for her shoulder. Don't touch me, Mira backed away. I don't even know what's real anymore. You hid everything from me. I can't trust you. Lucas stood in silence. Regret clouded his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered, like a breeze from the sea. But apologies meant nothing now. Mira turned away, leaving Lucas standing alone beneath the heavy darkness. In the days that followed, Lucas stopped coming to the market. Rain or shine, Mira worked alone at the fish stall, quiet and reserved. Everyone noticed the change. Her once bright smile had vanished, her hopeful eyes dimmed. All that remained was a weary Mira, silent, exhausted, sometimes teary-eyed when she saw the tilapia, the fish that once connected their hearts. Tita Rosa was getting weaker. Mira kept a strong front, but anyone could see the sadness in her eyes every time she looked toward the gate, hoping someone familiar would walk in. One afternoon, as Mira was gathering leftover fish to chill, she caught sight of a man standing in the rain, watching her from afar. Her heart skipped. It was Lucas. But he didn't come closer. He stood there, soaked, as though punishing himself with the rain and the silence between them. Mira stared back, waiting for a word, a gesture, but Lucas only lowered his head, then turned and walked away. She didn't follow. Mira quietly returned inside, clutching the fish scaler in her hand, not because she no longer loved him, but because her heart hadn't healed. You have everything, Lucas, she whispered. But all I had was trust, and you lost it. That night, Mira lay beside a sleeping, feverish Tita Rosa. She stared at the crumbling ceiling above her. She knew she still loved him, but sometimes love isn't enough to mend the cracks caused by deception. She closed her eyes and quietly swallowed the tears that never got the chance to fall. Though Mira rejected him, Lucas didn't leave. By day, he quietly helped vendors clean up, carry fish crates, and haul ice. At night, he washed dishes and mopped floors in a small diner, just enough to afford 3 meals a day. No one at the market knew who he really was. All they saw was a tall man with blistered hands and tired eyes, always drenched in sweat, always helping whether asked or not. Lucas secretly paid off most of Tita Rosa's hospital bills, never telling Mira. He didn't need thanks. He only wanted to redeem himself with action. One rainy afternoon, Mira overheard that Lucas was still hanging around the market. Curiosity and unresolved pain led her to follow him. Hidden behind a fish delivery truck, she watched every move of the man who once broke her heart. Lucas was hauling a heavy sack of ice, rain dripping down his face, mixing with sweat. His shoulder winced from strain, but he gritted through it. When the day ended, he didn't rest. He was scrubbing dishes at a dimly lit diner, his fingers red, his back hunched. Mira clenched her fists. She didn't know whether to be angry or cry. That night, while Mira placed a damp towel on Tita Rosa's forehead, the old woman gently took her hand. Idea. A man who gives up a fortune just to stay in a fish market close to you. Tita Rosa's eyes gleamed beneath the faint light. Tell me, doesn't a man like that deserve forgiveness? Mira didn't answer, but inside her heart, the icy walls of resentment slowly began to melt. Though she hadn't spoken it yet, her heart was beginning to soften. The next morning, Mira brought a packed meal and a bottle of lemon water. She didn't tell anyone. Quietly, she walked toward the shabby boarding house where Lucas lived. She arrived just as Lucas was scrubbing the front steps, his back soaked in sweat, hands still covered in soap. He froze when he saw her. Hair tied back, face bare, carrying a simple meal that somehow meant the world. "Have you eaten yet?" Mira asked softly. Lucas didn't speak. He couldn't believe his eyes. The girl he thought would never forgive him stood before him, offering a quiet smile and hope. He nodded, eyes misty. "Not yet, but if it's from you, I can't refuse." They sat on the steps outside his room, sharing rice and lemon water. No candlelit table, no roses, just two hearts slowly healing from wounds neither expected. After a few silent moments, Mira finally spoke. "I used to think I couldn't forgive you, but then I saw you at the market, washing dishes, hauling crates. I saw the calluses on your hands." She met his eyes. "I believe you didn't do all that out of guilt, but because you truly care." Lucas gave a slight nod. "I don't regret walking away from that world, but losing you would have made it all meaningless." Mira let out a soft laugh, her tears quietly falling. "I don't need you to be a billionaire, Lucas. I just need a man who's willing to sacrifice and love me for real." Lucas gently squeezed her hand. "And I don't expect you to forgive me right away. All I ask is a chance." Mira squeezed his hand back, just a little tighter. "Then, I'll give you one chance. Just one. Don't make me regret it." Lucas smiled, a smile from the heart, like someone who had found light after walking through endless darkness. A few days later, Tita Rosa was officially discharged from the hospital. Mira and Lucas picked her up in an old Jeep, smiles brightening all their faces. Tita Rosa hugged Lucas tightly. "Thank you, son," she whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. From that day on, the three of them returned to their familiar routine, waking up early to head to the market, cleaning fish together, teasing each other, and laughing like a real family. Mira no longer cared about anyone's judgment. She just knew that here, amid the smell of fish, loud market cries, and calloused hands, was where her heart felt at peace. The next morning, just as the sun rose high, Lucas suddenly dropped to one knee in the middle of the crowded market. "Will you marry a man with no diamonds, no empire, just salty hands, a stinky apron, and a heart that has belonged to you since day one?" He held out a shell cap threaded through with a piece of fishing twine. Mira laughed, eyes welling with tears. "I will." The entire market erupted in cheers. The fish vendors squealed in delight, children ran in circles chanting, "Yay, yay!" Amid all the chaos, Mira and Lucas just looked into each other's eyes that held a lifetime's promise. That morning, just as the market bustled with laughter and sales calls, a sleek black car pulled up at the entrance. The door opened and out stepped a stern, imposing man in a sharp suit, Arthur Belmont, Lucas's father. Lucas had just brought out a tub of fish when he froze. "Father," Arthur walked straight up to him, voice sharp and scolding. "So this is where you've been. You abandoned the company, your legacy, to live among these people?" His eyes drifted to Mira, who stood quietly nearby. His tone turned mocking. "And now you want to marry her, a fish vendor?" The entire market went silent. Lucas took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "You wouldn't understand. This is where I feel alive. I love Mira." Arthur clenched his fists. "If you marry her, you are no longer a Belmont. No inheritance, no legacy, nothing." Tension hung in the air. Mira trembled slightly but stepped forward. She bowed her head respectfully, then raised it with unwavering eyes. "I don't want your money, sir. I just ask that you don't take away the man you raised so well." Arthur flinched, caught off guard. Lucas took Mira's hand and faced his father. "I've made my choice. If I must lose everything to keep love, then so be it." Arthur said nothing more. He turned, stepped back into the car, and the door closed behind him. The engine roared and the vehicle disappeared into the distance. Mira rested her head on Lucas's shoulder. He wrapped his arms around her and whispered, "No one can take me from you, not even the past." 2 years had passed since Lucas gave up his fortune for love. By a quiet shore where waves whispered under the sand stood a modest wooden fish stall. A hand-painted sign hung above, "Fresh Hearts." Lucas was washing fish with care, sweat on his brow, hands soaked in seawater, yet his face glowed with peace. Nearby, a tiny baby girl, around 9 months old, crawled across a mat, holding a seashell in her hand, giggling endlessly. Her name was Hope, the first gift born from their honest love. At a distance, an older man stood motionless. It was Arthur Belmont. He didn't approach immediately, just watched, silently, from across the street. He saw Mira inside their humble kitchen, stirring soup while stealing glances at their baby. He saw Lucas, the son he had once groomed for power, now smiling as little Hope tossed her toy fish into the real tub of water. Arthur wiped his eyes with the sleeve of his blazer. He had never imagined he'd witness something so simple, yet so complete. Arthur's feet refused to move for minutes. This wasn't the boardroom. This wasn't about business. It was about a son, and everything he had once failed to understand. Arthur gave a soft nod, voice trembling. "You didn't choose wrong, Lucas." "I'm sorry," Lucas smiled back, eyes glassy. Mira stepped out holding baby Hope, and together, 3 generations stood side by side, with the sea breeze, the scent of fresh fish, and love between them. No mansion, no throne, just a small home and a big, unwavering love.